So IONQ is on a path to build a large fault-tolerant quantum computer, and they have earnings coming up on August 6th of 2025. So in this video, I'd like to do an earnings preview. IONQ CEO Niccolò de Masi just went on Mad Money with Jim Cramer. We're going to do a react to that. So we're going to go over what the company does. We're going to go over recent news and catalysts that have sent the stock higher, and we're going to do a deep dive into the financials and the stock price, and I'm going to give you all my predictions. So if you like content like this, make sure you hit the like button. What this does is it helps other retail investors get informed. Let's jump in. Okay, so recently we had an interview with Jim Cramer. This is my first time seeing it, so I'm going to give you guys a real-time react here, and let's see what the CEO of IONQ said on Jim Cramer.
Now, I used to resist recommending highly speculative stocks like IONQ with no earnings, not much in the way of revenue. But in this market, anything with a good story has the potential to become a huge winner, and I work for you. So let's check in with Niccolò de Masi. He's the CEO of IONQ to get a better understanding of why so many people are excited about this. Mr. de Masi, welcome to Mad Money.
Honor and pleasure to be here, sir. Big fan.
Well, thank you. Well, I've got to tell you, I first came across your company when Peter Chapman, who's your executive chairman, he spoke at GTC, and I think it had a real impact on Jensen Huang, who's the CEO of NVIDIA.
Well, look, IONQ is the biggest player in the business of quantum, right? We are the 800-pound gorilla of both quantum computing and quantum networking. So we're, in fact, a fully fledged quantum internet company, right? So we're building the most powerful and most affordable quantum computers. We're also building the networks, nodes, repeaters to be able to communicate safely, not just safely in a classical world, but safely in a quantum world where quantum computers are going to crack RSA in the coming years. You know, we are racing China, we believe almost single-handedly for the Western world, if you will, to be the RSA cracker. And of course, when that happens, everybody's going to need our quantum networking equipment to make sure that the world as we know it and civilization as we know it goes on. And we've demonstrated quantum advantage now twice. The first time was with Ansys and Synopsys back in March. Sure. And then more recently, it was in Paris where we announced a 20x speed up in partnership with NVIDIA and Amazon Web Services. And no one can really say that a 20x speed up is not, real quantum advantage.
So one thing to understand about IONQ is they're not just building a quantum computer, but they're also building a quantum internet. And as de Masi is saying, we are in a race with China currently to build sufficiently powerful quantum computers. And once they are powerful enough, then RSA encryption could be compromised.
The era of what's called quantum supremacy is just around the corner. It's coming in quarters and very low single-digit years. And that's getting people obviously pretty excited about the fact that we'll be able to do things to help every area of applied science. Well, right? From drug discovery to logistics.
So just pausing there real quick. So he's saying quarters, like fiscal quarters. So quantum supremacy, the idea that a quantum computer can outperform or is more performant than our most powerful supercomputers. De Masi is saying that's within quarters or low single-digit years. So I read from that this overlays pretty close to their quantum timeline, but probably like 2026, 2027. Let's keep listening.
Let's take pharmaceuticals, okay? Are you guys thinking about instead of maintenance, would you be doing cure?
Yeah, so all the bits of computational analysis in this world, from engineering to drug discovery, we announced a protein folding partnership and success, just a month or so ago. And so our machines are now on the verge of simulating molecules that are probably 30, 35, atoms, molecules long. And so we're doing things in the next year that classical computers will not be able to do to predict and also look at molecules through a quantum lens, right? And so I think you're going to see a plethora of both chronic as well as, critical, if you will, drug discovery breakthroughs.
And this is part of the intangible value. And personally, one of the things I'm most excited about with quantum computing is the ability for drug discovery and to basically model these molecules on a molecular level. And as you're hearing him talk about this is why people are so excited about quantum, is not just because it's another computer, but it's because of what it can potentially do and how that could have real world implications on our health, our longevity, and our understanding of all things, not just limited to sciences, but beyond that as well.
And it's just going to keep going from there. As our machines get more powerful, we'll be able to model ever bigger molecules. Okay, so right? Same with material science.
But Jensen told me that in the end, with companies like you, he would still have to play a role. That he now supports quantum, but he said, look, Jim, NVIDIA's going to be involved if it's quantum. They need us. Why is that?
Yeah, I think we're the biggest reason, honestly, in the last 6 months why Jensen has changed his perspective on this sector. We've demonstrated, 2 partnerships with him where we've shown quantum advantage, and we've shown that yes, we're going to grow with him in the coming years. Kind of like when GPUs,
This is really fascinating, and this is the first time I'm hearing this. So basically, what he's referencing here is at the start of the year, Jensen Huang had basically said quantum was 15 to 20 years away. And this sent all the quantum stocks down overnight. This is a leader of the tech world, like the most valuable company in the world, saying, no, just disregarding it. And now he's saying, Masi here is saying through these partnerships and this proof of concept that IONQ has been perhaps the biggest influencer in changing Jensen's mind. Fascinating. Because we're not only talking about company here, we're also watching history unfold as far as technology goes.
How did the Defense Department discover you? How did the Air Force discover you?
Well, we're a 30-year-old business, right? So we were founded, really on work that was done in the mid-90s. Our founder is the father of quantum computing hardware. We're the first to demonstrate it in the lab. We're the first to commercialize, right? And the reality is, I've looked at the space many times. The leadership that IONQ has in its technology, because we started first and because we picked the best path that runs with the least energy, runs at room temperature, gets to commercial advantage first, is something we're just building on, right? And we're building on that both organically and inorganically, as I've shown the last 3 or 4 or 5 months.
Now, but we are talking about waiting to 2030 before we think about making money. Now, that requires a certain kind of mindset investor, right? I mean, you don't want someone who was thinking this thing's going to have its big breakthrough in 2026.
Well, we're having big breakthroughs actually
every day,
almost every month if you follow the press, right? So it's bigger breakthroughs. And one of the things, Jim, that gets people excited, I think, about IONQ in particular is we're moving the size of our machines forward so quickly that we're doubling the compute space, sometimes every week, sometimes every month, right? And so
So I really like both the question from Cramer and the answer, because I think there's still the misunderstanding that progress isn't being made. And I think there's this idea that overnight you're going to get this amazing breakthrough, and this could happen. There absolutely at any time we could get a huge breakthrough in one of these quantum companies, whether it's a new scientific discovery or who knows what is possible here. But what Masi is saying is, if you follow the news, we are making progress all the time. We are doing this all the time. So I really, really like the answer. And I like that he's talking about the increase in the capacity of the machines and the approach that IONQ has taken.
Operations of our machines are not a factor of 2 bigger like Moore's law. They could be hundreds of millions of times more powerful. They could be billions of times, maybe even trillions of times more powerful, because the scaling gets so vertical in the next few years that classical computers can't write out the size of the number if you look at 2 to the power of the large little qubits that we'll be producing.
All right. Well, look,
so totally new paradigm.
I have to let it go there. I am fascinated by everything you say. I know I have to do some sort of special or something about this because our viewers want it and they are owed it. And I just learned, even in this short snippet, I learned why Jensen changed his mind and why he started talking about how it's sooner rather than later, because of things that you did.
So that was a really eye-opening look and a great interview with Masi and Jim Cramer. And I love that mainstream media and a financial powerhouse like Cramer is interested in quantum and is starting to talk to the CEOs more and more. And I really love that Masi really paints the picture of IONQ as a company that's been around for decades and is a first mover and is moving into this space. And one more thing that's really important. We've been used to kind of this linear progression where, of course, our phones, our computers have got better year after year in a linear way. What he's talking about and what's really fascinating with quantum is the exponential acceleration. So now let's take a look at some of the news that Masi was alluding to. I pulled up a bunch of articles here. Then we're going to look at the financials, and then I'm going to give some price predictions. So perhaps one of the most meaningful acquisitions of 2025 was when IONQ announced their agreement to acquire Oxford Ionworks to accelerate the path to breakthroughs in quantum computing. The transaction brought together IONQ's quantum computing, application and networking stack with Oxford Ionworks' groundbreaking ion trap technology manufactured on standard semiconductor chips. This combined company expects to build systems with 256 physical qubits at 99.99% accuracy by 2026 and advance to over 10,000 physical qubits by 2027. That's amazing, incredible numbers if they are able to hit those benchmarks. IONQ also completed the acquisition of LightSync, accelerating quantum computing and networking. So this deal accelerated the shift from experimental bulk optics to scalable optical chips, moving us closer to commercializing our next generation of advanced quantum technologies and the quantum internet. Then we saw IONQ, and he talked about this in the interview, sped up drug development application with AstraZeneca, Amazon Web Services, and NVIDIA. And the IONQ design workflow provided an end-to-end example of a hybrid quantum classical workflow that helps provide solutions to complex pharmaceutical development challenges and has the potential to improve speed and efficiency within the drug development process. So I think you all should get really used to hearing this. Hybrid, quantum, classical. A quantum computer isn't going to be available at Walmart for you to go and buy. These are going to be in supercomputer centers, and they're going to be working hybrid with the classical workflow for speed up and optimization. This demonstration with AstraZeneca represents a meaningful step towards practical quantum computing applications in chemistry and materials science, and showcases how IONQ's enterprise-grade quantum computers are uniquely suited to meet the challenge. IONQ and Kipu break quantum performance records for protein folding and optimization problems. But what this shows, again, is there are a lot of scientific applications for the speed up we get from quantum computing. And these are early proof of concepts. This is the worst you'll ever see. That's another way to look at it. Technology tends to work like this. Your iPhone 1, that's the worst operating system in the hardware would ever be. Now we're on iPhone 16. Now we're on iPhone 17. Think of quantum computing the same way. This is the worst it's ever going to be. It's only going to continue to get better. IONQ also completed a $1 billion equity offering at a premium. So the common stock was around $40 to $44, and they sold a bunch of their stock with pre-funded warrants at $55.49 per share. So about a 25% premium. And then they also had some longer term warrants. So this gave IONQ about a $1.6 billion cash position, which is truly incredible. So the company is in great shape financially. IONQ also completed the acquisition of Capella Space, advancing vision for space-based quantum computing. So this is now more into the quantum key distribution, the networking. We know that China is very strong in quantum networking. So we saw that Masi had alluded to, they feel like they're the only one in a race with China. And this is what he's talking about. If you really start digging, you can see these acquisitions and the work they're doing on quantum networking, and this acquisition of Capella Space is moving them in the direction to be able to compete with China in quantum networking. People think oh, why would we need quantum networking? We don't need the quantum internet. Well, China's going to build it, and then we're going to realize we need it. And then if there's not a company like IONQ working on it, then we're in big trouble. So we also should be thankful that we have a company here in the US that's working on this. So we have upcoming Q2 results on August 6, 2025. I'm greatly looking forward to this. And finally, we have IONQ that expands across APAC through strategic collaboration with Australian company Emergence Quantum. So as part of the collaboration, IONQ and Emergence Quantum will expand on existing advances in ion trap technology by co-developing next generation electronics and materials. So what I love about IONQ is they're forging all these partnerships, not only on the science side, but also on the political side, with the academic side. So if we jump over to IONQ's site, they've got 66 job openings, which anytime I'm looking at a company that I'm investing in, I want to see that they're actively hiring. I want to see that there's growth in the company, and that can be evidenced by who they're hiring and what positions. So they definitely have a lot of scientists they're hiring. They have architecture, engineering and technology, product delivery, quantum computing, tons and tons and tons of position in quantum computing, and specialized positions as well. So I love to see this. A commenter on the channel had brought this up, so I have to bring up IONQ Tempo, a paradigm shifting quantum computer. So IONQ Tempo is expected to be capable of commercial advantage for certain applications. Tempo is designed to have faster gate speeds, mid-circuit measurement, and 99.9% fidelity, 100 target qubits. So you can inquire about IONQ Tempo, and they have a bunch of different things. So they have Aria, Forte Enterprise. We're not going to go deep into the product line, but they have a lot of exciting stuff going on. Now we're going to look at Q1 2025. So this is going to be more of the financial section of this video. So in Q1 2025, they had an EPS beat and the stock rose. So IONQ's EPS of negative 0.14 beat the forecast of negative 0.25. IONQ also reaffirmed its full year 2025 guidance. This Zacks article in collaboration with Yahoo Finance, I read through this, and the company's earnings are set to go public on August 6th. Additionally, investors should keep an eye on any recent revisions to analyst forecasts for IONQ, such as recent modifications, which usually signify the changing landscape of near-term business trends. Just hopping back to that investing.com article. So we have IONQ projecting a Q2 2025 revenue between $16 and $18 million. So if that is correct, if they're actually able to hit on this, then we're now over in ProfitViz, then their revenue is going to look something like this, which would be their highest revenue to date. Now, that in and of itself would be a great quarter over quarter increase in revenue. We can see the stock price, and we're going to go more into the stock price, but the stock price is near its all-time high. We can see that there was a quarter where net income was pretty bad, but overall the trend is in the right direction. The operating income, you can see the hiring they're doing. So I'm not surprised to see that cost and OPEX is going up. They're aggressively hiring and building out these partnerships. Free cash flow, if we look at the last 3 quarters, is negative, but it's going in the right direction. Operating cash flow is kind of the same story. What isn't captured here, because they haven't reported yet, is their assets. Their assets now will look something like this because of the $1 billion offering. So on paper, IONQ has got a lot stronger this quarter, which has made me incredibly bullish on IONQ going forward. And we're just over on Simply Wall Street, and they have a stable cash runway. And IONQ has sufficient cash runway for more than 3 years if free cash flow continues to reduce at historical rates. So we like to see that. Okay, now everyone's favorite part, the stock chart. So what's the stock going to do? So 1 year, if we look at the history of IONQ, we can see that IONQ has been valued in the stock market. It was at $36 in 2021. It peaked at $20 in 23. So a lot of people have seen the value of IONQ historically, but recently during the quantum euphoria, this thing hit almost $55 a share. Wick touched up there. It dumped down with tariffs and wider market sell-off under $20 a share. And since then, we've seen a furious rally from the lows in April to where we closed today, a 155% rally. I've called before, we're in a protracted bull flag. A bull flag has presented the flagpole here of that 37% day, and we're kind of walking up. Now, if we look at this in more of like a rising support, we can see confirmation in rising support. If I bring back more of my technical drawings, we can see that actually recently IONQ has broken this rising support where we had multiple confirmations. So we're actually trading below that rising support, and the rising support is an imaginary line, and the stock price will move how it's going to move. But recently we've kind of been in this range between $42 and $46. We actually dipped below $42.53 in a few of our last sessions, and we were up at almost 48 where we saw a couple rejections. So recently IONQ has been rejected off of just below 48. However, we're going into earnings, and I'm optimistic that IONQ will deliver the goods for earnings and then some. I think it could be a beat and raise quarter. So I'm personally positioning myself with some short dated calls through earnings at $44. I've also been buying shares because I believe, and this is just my personal read on the situation, I believe that IONQ, if it can break this very critical 48.68 level, then there isn't much resistance to all-time highs. So if we are able to break through this 56 number, then we're in price discovery. And I believe IONQ, if they can give us an amazing quarter here in this quarter or the upcoming quarter, I think we're going to see all-time highs sooner rather than later. So I'm very excited for the future of IONQ. Very quickly, I'm going to give you a couple different cases. So in my bearish case, I would see us going down below 42, breaking through 39, and actually coming down to this 36.38, which would give back all of this 37% day. I think it's unlikely. We've found support a couple times before. In my base case, we just kind of chop around and we don't make progress, any meaningful progress. And now in my bull case, if they come with the goods and earnings, or we get other sector tailwinds, I see us breaking 45.93. Once we can break 48.68, then it's going and retesting all-time highs. If we can have some sort of candle like we had over here that pushes us up, that's what I'm hoping for with IONQ. All right, guys, I hope you noticed the IONQ orange behind here. We are all about IONQ today. I'm excited about IONQ. I'm buying IONQ, both shares and call options. They are expensive call options, so I can't buy that many of them, but I am buying them because I believe this company could have some near-term price movement. As always, I'm not a financial advisor. You've got to do your own research and do your due diligence. Now, if you found this content helpful and or entertaining, I'm very happy to provide it. Also, if you'd like to support the Quantum Bull or the channel, I do have channel memberships and you can go check those out. And if you'd like to join as a member, you can just simply click subscribe, and there's a couple different options there for you. And I'll also add the link to join as a member in the description of the video. All right, guys, really enjoyed this one, and we'll see you in the next one.